Hey there, and welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Hello. Great to be here.
Before we jump into today's topic, just a big hello and a friendly reminder. If you're finding these deep dives helpful, maybe even interesting, please do hit that subscribe button. We really love having you as part of our learning community.
Definitely helps us keep doing these. So what's on the agenda today?
Right, so today we're diving deep into something I know is, well, it's on the minds of a lot of people working on their English.
Okay.
How to really build your vocabulary, build it so it actually sticks, so you can use it.
Vocabulary. Yes, that's a big one for sure. A common hurdle.
It really is. We all know that feeling, right? You're reading something or trying to follow a movie, maybe even listening to a podcast like this one.
And you just hit a wall of words you don't know?
Exactly. It can feel like you're just, swimming in unfamiliar terms sometimes.
It really impacts everything, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Your understanding, your confidence when you try to speak.
Totally. Which is why we're focusing this deep dive on a very specific method. It's actually quite intriguing.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a method for tackling this, aiming to learn and effectively use a pretty substantial number of words.
How substantial are we talking?
The goal is 1,000 words.
1,000. Okay, that's a solid target. And what's the source for this method?
Our roadmap for this comes from the Speak English with Tiffany YouTube channel. She has a video outlining how to learn and use 1,000 English vocabulary words.
Tiffany. Yes, I'm familiar with her channel. She offers some very practical advice.
Yeah.
So, a structured approach then.
Very structured. And what I find interesting and what we'll dig into is how it tries to bridge that gap. The gap between just memorizing a word and actually using it naturally, pulling it out when you need it.
Exactly. It really struck a chord with me. I remember when I was trying to learn Korean.
Oh, yeah. Language learning adventures.
Totally. I'd memorized these lists, feeling pretty good about it,
Checking them off. Right. Until I tried to actually say something or read something beyond the basics.
And the words just vanished.
Poof. Evaporated. It's so easy to start strong, right? Lots of enthusiasm.
And then you get bogged down. The sheer volume, or maybe the feeling that you know the word but can't quite grab it when you're speaking.
That's exactly it. Have you run into similar things?
Oh, absolutely. That gap between passive knowledge, recognizing a word when you see or hear it, and active recall, it's a classic challenge in language learning.
Right. Like you see it written down, you go, yeah, I know that word.
But then you're trying to form a sentence and, nope, it's just not coming.
It's like it's locked away somewhere.
Exactly, which is why a method that specifically targets use sounds promising.
And that's what makes this formula she presents so interesting. The core idea, the principle behind it, is that by focusing on just 3 words each day, you can eventually get to that 1,000-word goal.
Just 3 a day. That sounds almost as simple. How does that scale up to 1,000?
I know, it sounds a bit counterintuitive at first. But as we unpack the steps, you'll see it's this very methodical approach. It's designed for sustainable learning, not burnout.
Okay, that makes sense. Consistency over intensity, perhaps.
That's a great way to put it. Small, regular efforts often beat those big, sporadic cramming sessions, don't they? Especially for something like vocabulary that needs to stick long term.
Definitely. Building it brick by brick rather than trying to build the whole wall in one weekend.
Exactly. And before we get into the actual steps, Tiffany does emphasize the role of memorization and repetition. That part's still important.
Well, yeah, you have to get the words into your head somehow.
Right. She points out that having a set pattern, a routine for learning, helps your brain. It helps it absorb and, crucially, retain the new info more effectively.
Like creating grooves for the information to settle into. Structure helps the brain anticipate and process.
Yeah, it reminds me of that deep dive we did on memory triggers and how routines work. This formula seems to build in those kinds of consistent triggers specifically for vocabulary.
It makes sense. The brain likes predictability. If it knows, okay, now is vocabulary time, it might be more receptive, like warming up before exercise.
Good analogy. But what I think is really key here, what makes Tiffany's approach stand out, isn't just the memorization part.
Okay.
It's that it's explicitly designed to help you use the words.
The application piece.
Right. Use them in your everyday communication, talking with native speakers, talking with other learners, writing, making them part of your active toolkit.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So it's not just about definitions on flashcards.
Definitely not. So are you ready to break down this 3 words a day formula, see how it actually works?
Absolutely. Let's get into the mechanics. How do 3 words become a gateway to 1,000? I'm particularly interested in that link between memorizing and actually applying.
All right, let's do it. So the whole system revolves around a 16-day cycle.
15 days, okay.
And within that cycle, there are 5 key parts, 5 steps you follow.
5 steps.
They are select, memorize, visualize, apply, and review.
Select, memorize, visualize, apply, review. Okay. Makes sense as a sequence.
So let's start at the beginning. Step 1, select. This is day 1, where your journey for each little batch of words begins.
Selection. Choosing the right words feels pretty important. Garbage in, garbage out, potentially.
Well, yeah, the relevance is key. She emphasizes that. The more relevant or interesting the words are to you, the more likely you are to stick with learning them.
That makes intuitive sense. Motivation is higher if it connects to your interests.
Exactly. So, principle is simple. On day 1, you choose just 3 new words. That's it.
Only 3. Okay. Deliberately small.
Yep. And that pattern continues. Every single day, you select 3 new words. It keeps it feeling manageable, not overwhelming, right from the start.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Instead of facing a list of 20 words, it's just 3. Less intimidating. So where did these 3 words come from? How do you choose them?
Good question. Tafani suggests a few really practical sources. The first one is pretty intuitive, from TV shows or movies you're watching.
Using your entertainment. I like that.
Yeah. So you're watching your favorite show in English, you hear a word you don't know, or maybe you see it in the subtitles. Jot it down. That could be one of your 3 for the day.
That's smart. You get the word in context immediately. You hear how it's pronounced, see the situation.
Right. Often with visual cues, maybe some emotion attached to it. All of that helps it stick, doesn't it?
Definitely aids understanding and recall. Plus, it taps into something you presumably enjoy doing anyway watching the show. Makes learning less of a chore.
Totally agree. Much more engaging than just picking from a random dictionary list.
Okay, so TV and movies. What else?
Another source she suggests is reading material. Books, magazines, English newspapers.
Makes sense. Reading is a huge source of new vocabulary.
Yeah, same idea. You're reading an article, you come across an unfamiliar word, note it down. Potential candidate for your daily 3.
This taps into perhaps a wider range of vocabulary, maybe more formal or specific terms than you'd always hear in conversation or on TV.
Good point. And seeing it written helps with spelling, too. Understanding the structure.
Yeah, though it's important to choose reading material at the right level, isn't it? If every other word is new, that's just frustrating.
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point. You don't want to spend more time with the dictionary than the actual text. Find that sweet spot.
The comprehensible input plus 1 idea? Challenging but not overwhelming.
Exactly. Okay, so TV, movies, reading. And the third method she suggests is, I think, really clever because it builds on what you already know.
Oh, how so?
She recommends actively looking for synonyms for words you already understand pretty well.
Building outwards from your existing knowledge. Nice.
Yeah. So, for example, you know the word happy, right? Basic word.
Sure.
You could then look up synonyms and maybe choose joyful, content, or elated as 1 or more of your 3 words for the day.
That's a very efficient way to expand. You're linking the new word directly to a concept you already grasp.
Right. And what are the benefits of doing it that way, specifically learning synonyms?
Well, apart from efficiency, it helps you become more precise in your language. Instead of just saying good all the time, you learn excellent, fantastic, superb.
Lets you express nuances.
Exactly. Nuances and meaning.
Yeah.
And it helps avoid repetition, makes your speaking and writing more varied and interesting. You start to appreciate the subtle differences between similar words.
That's a great point. Okay, so that's the select phase. 3 words a day, chosen from sources that engage you, TV, reading, or by expanding on words you know through synonyms.
Making it personal and relevant right from the start.
Precisely. Now let's move on to part 2. Memorize. This is where the active learning of those selected words really kicks in.
Okay, so you've picked your 3 words for the day. Now you actually have to, well, learn them.
Right. And this is where you start engaging with the meaning. Not just passively glancing at it, but really trying to make it stick.
And the timing here is important in Tafani's method you mentioned.
Yes, very important. The memorization doesn't start immediately for the words you just selected. It starts on day 2, and it's for the 3 words you selected on day 1.
Okay. So there's a slight delay. On day 2, you select 3 new words for day 2, and you start memorizing the 3 from day 1.
Exactly. It's a staggered approach. Why do you think she structures it that way?
Well, it seems designed to prevent overload. Trying to select and deeply memorize 3 new words all on the same day might be too much pressure.
Yeah, it could feel like cramming, even with just 3.
And maybe that slight delay, that 24-hour gap between first encountering the word and actively memorizing it, could actually help solidify it a little bit of sleeping on it.
That's an interesting thought. It gives your brain a little time. So, okay, day 2 arrives. How does Stefani suggest we actually memorize those 3 words from yesterday?
What are the steps?
First, she says, read over the words and their meanings again. But crucially, really think about them.
Active processing, not just passive reading.
Exactly. Don't just skim the definition. Engage with it. Maybe try to relate the word to something you know or situation you've been in.
Making connections. That's key for memory, isn't it? Linking new information to existing knowledge structures in your brain creates more pathways for retrieval.
Right. You could even try maybe mentally putting it in a sentence at this stage, even though the formal apply step comes later.
Just getting a feel for it. Okay, so think about the word and meaning. What's next?
Next up, flashcards. Create a flashcard for each of the 3 words.
The classic method. For good reason, I suppose.
Seems so. Why are flashcards so enduringly popular, do you think?
They're just so versatile, aren't they? Simple, portable, great for quick review sessions.
Like when you're waiting for a bus or something.
Exactly. And the physical act of making the card can be part of the memorization process for some people. It's another form of engagement.
Good point. Okay, so make flashcards. Word on one side, meaning on the other, presumably?
Standard format, yeah.
Now, here's a really specific, maybe slightly surprising part. Stefani suggests aiming to memorize and really know those 3 words within about 30 seconds.
30 seconds for all 3, or per word.
It sounds like for the set of 3, aiming for that initial grasp really quickly.
Wow, okay. 30 seconds is fast?
Yeah.
What's the thinking there? That seems counterintuitive to deep learning.
I wondered that too. What do you think? Why such a rapid goal?
Well, maybe the point isn't deep understanding at this initial memorization stage. Maybe it's about getting that first quick hook into your memory.
Like a rapid initial exposure.
Yeah. It forces you to focus intently for a very short burst. It prevents you from getting bogged down trying to understand every single nuance right away. Just get the core meaning to stick.
Okay, so it's about focused attention and maybe building a quick sense of accomplishment. Like, okay, I got those 3, let's move on.
Possibly. It avoids that feeling of spending ages on just one word. Quick win, then you revisit and deepen later in the process, perhaps.
That makes sense. So it's a concentrated burst of effort for that small batch. Okay, we've done this quick, focused memorization. What's step 3?
You said visualize was next.
Exactly, visualize. This adds another layer, another sensory input to the learning.
Engaging the visual memory, that's powerful for a lot of learners. We often think in pictures.
Right, and this visualization step also begins on day 2.
Okay, so day 2 is busy. You're selecting the day 2 words, memorizing the day 1 words, and now visualizing the day 1 words too.
That's right. It focuses on those first 3 words you selected, the ones you've just done the quick memorization for. It's all these overlapping stages working together.
So you're hitting the same words from different angles almost simultaneously. Semantic meaning through memorization, visual representation through visualization.
Yeah. What's the benefit of doing that, engaging different memory processes like that?
It likely strengthens the overall memory trace. You're building multiple connections to that word in your brain. If one pathway is weak, maybe another one will trigger the recall. It makes the memory more robust.
Okay, so how do we actually visualize a word? What are the steps Stefani suggests?
Does she give guidance on what kind of image?
Yes. First step. Think about the word. Let's say it's enormous. Think about enormous and just notice what picture or image spontaneously pops into your head.
Spontaneously, so not forcing it.
Exactly. She really stresses that it's personal. What you picture for enormous might be totally different from my picture. Maybe you see a whale, I see a mountain.
And that personal connection is vital, isn't it?
Yeah.
Your brain prioritizes things that have personal meaning or evoke a vivid, maybe even emotional response. Makes it much more memorable.
Absolutely. So don't judge your mental image, just identify it. What comes naturally?
Okay, got the mental picture. Then what?
Then she suggests use your computer or phone, go online, and find an actual image that matches or comes close to that mental picture you had.
So you find an external representation of your internal image.
Right. What's the value in doing that, do you think? Actively searching for the image.
Well, the search itself is another form of active engagement with the word and its meaning. And Finding and selecting that specific image reinforces your connection to it. It makes it more concrete. It becomes a visual anchor.
A visual anchor. I like that term. Okay, so you found your image online. Then
So you just save it.
you create another set of flashcards.
More flashcards. Yeah.
But these are different. This time, the image goes on the top side of the card.
The picture you found online.
Yep, and the word itself is written on the bottom.
Interesting. So now you have 2 sets for each word. Word definition and image word.
Exactly. Why 2 sets? What does this image flashcard achieve?
It provides a different retrieval cue. Instead of starting with the word and recalling the meaning or image, you start with the image and have to recall the word.
Testing recall from a different direction.
Precisely. It strengthens the association from both sides. If you can get the word from the definition and from the image, your grasp of that word is much stronger.
Makes sense. And Tiffany really emphasizes actually using these image flashcards, practicing with them.
Right. It's not just about making them.
No, it's about learning the vocabulary in different ways. Beyond just reading definitions over and over, it's engaging visually, semantically. Even the physical act of flipping the cards helps some people.
Multimodal learning. Catering to different learning styles and building those more robust pathways we talked about, it just makes the learning deeper, more embedded.
Okay, this is really starting to take shape. We've got select, memorize, visualize, covering first couple of days for any given set of words. Now we hit step 4, apply.
Apply. This sounds like where the using it part really comes in, moving from passive knowledge to active use.
Exactly. This is where the rubber meets the road, like you said earlier, making it functional.
Which is often the hardest lead for learners. So how does this step work, and when does it happen in the cycle?
Okay, so the application step for that first set of 3 words you selected back on day 1, that starts on day 3.
Day 3. Okay, so it's a rolling system.
That's
Day 3. Select new words, day 3 words. Memorize day 2 words. Visualize day 1 words. No, wait. Visualize day 2 words. Apply day 1 words.
Let's trace it. Day 1, select words 1, 2, 3. Day 2, select 4, 5, 6. Memorize 1, 2, 3. Visualize 1, 2, 3. Day 3, select 7, 8, 9. Memorize 4, 5, 6. Visualize 4, 5, 6. Apply 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Got it. So each day you're performing different stages for different batches of words. Select the newest, memorize yesterday's, visualize yesterday's, apply the day before yesterday's.
You got it. It sounds complex when you map it out, but the daily task is always just those stages. It keeps everything moving forward.
That layering is clever. It ensures you're constantly recycling and reinforcing the older words while still bringing in new ones. Prevents the earlier hits from just fading away.
Exactly. It's continuous learning and review built into the system. So how do we actually apply those words from 2 days ago?
What's the task on day 3 for words 1, 2, and 3?
The task is to use each of those 3 vocabulary words in a sentence that you create yourself.
Okay, sentence creation. That's a standard practice.
Yes, but here's the key twist, the important element Tiffany stresses. You need to connect the word to your own personal life, your experiences, your thoughts, your world.
Personalization again. Why is that so crucial at the application stage?
Why do you think? What does making it personal achieve here?
Well, when you force yourself to link a new word to your own life, it stops being an abstract concept.
Right. It's not just a word on a list anymore.
It becomes anchored in your reality, your experiences. That makes it significantly more meaningful and therefore more memorable. And you're practicing using it in a context that makes sense to you.
Exactly. You're more likely to remember it and crucially pull it out later in a similar real-life situation because you've already made that connection. It makes the learning active, not passive reception.
Active and engaged. Okay, so how does that look in practice? Does she give an example?
She gives a really clear one. Let's stick with our example word enormous, meaning very big.
Okay.
A dictionary or a generic example might be, the building is enormous.
Fine. Correct. But pretty bland. Right. Not very sticky.
Exactly. It shows the meaning, but there's no personal hook there. It doesn't connect to the learner's life at all.
So the learner's job is to take enormous and make it personal.
Right. So Tiffany's example of a personalized sentence is, my university is enormous.
Okay. Simple change, but significant.
Yeah. Notice the structure is similar noun, plus is enormous. But the noun changes from the generic building to something specific and real for the learner. My university.
That achieves a couple of things, doesn't it? One, it confirms they understand the basic grammar, how to slot the word into a sentence.
Good point.
And 2, it anchors the word in their personal experience. They're picturing their own university, applying the word to something familiar. They're not just repeating, they're thinking.
Precisely. So the key action is quickly review the word's meaning, then pause and think, okay, where does this fit in my life? What in my world is enormous? Then create the sentence.
That active generation process is powerful. You're manipulating the language, making it your own. That's a huge step towards fluency and confidence, moving beyond just knowing the definition.
Definitely feels like a bridge from knowing to doing. Okay, so we've covered select, memorize, visualize, and now apply. We're working through that 16-day cycle. What's the final piece?
You said review was the last step.
Exactly. Step 5, review. This is where you consolidate everything you've been working on during the cycle.
Essential for long-term retention. You can learn something today and forget it by next week without review. It combats the forgetting curve.
Right. It's like revisiting those brain pathways and strengthening them, making sure they don't get overgrown.
So when does this big review happen?
This comprehensive review takes place on the 16th day of the cycle.
Day 16. Okay, and how many words are we reviewing by that? You select 3 words a day.
Right. So for the first 15 days, you've selected 3 words each day. That's 3 times 15.
45 words.
45 words, right. I think I miscalculated earlier. So on day 16, you review all 45 words learned in that cycle.
45 words. That's a decent chunk to review in one session. How do you do that effectively without it taking forever?
Good question. Tiffany's approach is geared towards efficiency here. First step, set a timer.
Oh, for how long?
Just 5 minutes.
5 minutes to review 45 words. That's less than 7 seconds per word. Seriously.
Yeah, it sounds incredibly fast. What's the logic behind such a tight time limit for the review?
Well, it forces rapid recall, doesn't it? No time to sit and puzzle over a word for ages. It's a quick check. Do I know it instantly or not?
Like a pulse check on your retention.
Exactly. It prevents you from spending too much time on words you actually know well. It's about quickly identifying the ones that haven't stuck yet. Creates urgency, sharpens focus maybe.
Okay, that makes sense in context. So during these 5 minutes, what are you doing?
Just looking at the words.
You use both sets of flashcards you've created.
The word definition ones and the image word ones.
Yep. You cycle through them, testing yourself. Can I get the meaning from the word? Can I get the word from the image?
Testing recall from both directions again. Reinforces the memory from multiple angles like we discussed with visualization. Strengthens those associations.
Right. Now, Tiffany is realistic. She acknowledges that in a quick 5-minute blitz like that,
you're gonna miss some. You won't remember all 45 perfectly.
Exactly. And that's okay. It's expected. The crucial part is what you do next.
Okay.
As you go through the flashcards, if you hit a word you don't immediately recall, or you get it wrong, you put it in a separate pile.
Pile.
Basically, yeah, she calls it the review again pile.
Okay, so you're actively sorting the words you know well from the ones that need more work. That's efficient. Targeted review.
Precisely. Instead of reviewing everything equally in the future, you focus your energy where it's needed most.
Makes sense. So what happens to this review again pile after the 5 minutes are up?
This is the follow-up plan. Tiffany recommends you take those specific words, the ones that tripped you up, and review them every other day during your next 16-day cycle.
So they carry over into the next cycle, but with more frequent review.
Exactly. You keep hitting them maybe every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for instance, until they feel solid, until they don't end up in the review again pile during the next big day 16 review.
That sounds like spaced repetition, essentially.
It is, isn't it? Targeting the problem words with increasing intervals implicitly.
Yeah. Spaced repetition is a really well-documented, powerful technique for moving information from short-term to long-term memory. By revisiting those tricky words, just as you might be starting to forget them, you strengthen the memory trace significantly. You're fighting that forgetting curve directly.
So it's not just about the initial learning cycle, but this ongoing, targeted review of the stragglers.
That ensures the harder words eventually get cemented too.
Yeah.
It's a complete system.
It really seems like it. So that's the full 16-day cycle. Select 3 daily, memorize and visualize yesterday's 3, apply the 3 from the day before, and then on day 16, a rapid 5-minute review of all 45, creating that review again pile for targeted follow-up.
Wow. It's quite intricate when you lay it all out, but the daily actions seem manageable. Select, memorize, visualize, apply. Just doing those steps each day.
Yeah, it integrates a lot of effective techniques, doesn't it? Spaced repetition, active recall with the flashcards, personalization, using context from shows or reading.
Multimodal learning with the visualization. Yeah, it seems to address many of the common reasons why vocabulary learning fails. Lack of structure, lack of review, the gap between knowing and using.
It feels very thought through. And the really great thing.
What's that?
Tiffany from Speak English with Kafani has actually made this whole system even easier for people to use.
How so?
She's created a free downloadable resource. It's a formula guide and a spreadsheet.
Oh, a template.
Yeah, exactly. It's called the 1,000 Vocabulary Words Plan. You can find it on her website. I think it's speakenglishwithttiffany.com/1,000 vocabulary words. We should put that link somewhere for people.
Definitely. Having a template like that is huge.
Why do you think that's so helpful?
It just removes a major barrier, doesn't it? The effort of setting up your own tracking system.
Right, figuring out which words are at which stage.
Exactly. A spreadsheet can automate that tracking. It tells you, okay, today you need to memorize these words, visualize these, apply these. It keeps you organized and, crucially, consistent.
And consistency seems to be the magic ingredient here.
It's often the biggest hurdle in any long-term learning project. So anything that makes consistency easier is incredibly valuable. It lets you focus your mental energy on the learning itself, not the logistics.
That's a really good way of putting it. Takes the guesswork out. Well, that pretty much brings us to the end of our deep dive into Tiffany's method. It's been really fascinating to break it down step by step.
It really has. Seeing how those simple daily actions, when combined in this structured way, can potentially lead to significant results. It's a testament to the power of a well-designed strategy.
Yeah, understanding the why behind each step, the memorization, the visualization, the application, the review, it makes the whole process feel less arbitrary and more purposeful.
Agreed. It connects learning theory to practical action.
So thank you for joining us on this exploration today. We really hope this breakdown has been helpful for everyone listening.
Hopefully it sparks some ideas, giving you some practical things you might try in your own English learning.
Absolutely. And don't forget that free resource Tiffany offers speakenglishwithttiffany.com for 1,000 vocabulary words. If this system sounds interesting, definitely check that out.
Even if you don't adopt the whole system wholesale, maybe there are elements you can incorporate, perhaps being more systematic about review or making a point to personalize sentences.
Right. Or consciously choosing words from shows you watch. Even small tweaks to your current routine inspired by this could make a difference.
Think about how you currently learn vocabulary and where this might offer an improvement or new angle.
And that leads us nicely into our final thought for you today.
Okay.
Just reflecting on this idea of the cumulative effect. Learning just 3 new words a day. It might not feel like a huge leap forward on any given day, right?
No, it sounds quite small, quite manageable.
But as the system shows, when you do that consistently, day after day, with a solid process for making them stick and learning to use them.
Over weeks and months, those small increments add up significantly.
Exactly. It really underscores the power of consistency, doesn't it? How implementing a seemingly small daily habit can lead to really substantial long-term growth. Not just in vocabulary, but in confidence and overall communication ability.
It's a powerful reminder. Those small, consistent steps, guided by a smart strategy, can lead to remarkable results over time. Applies to language learning, applies to so many things in life, really.
So true. Well, thank you so much again to everyone who stayed with us through this entire deep dive. We really appreciate you spending your time with us. So today we're doing something I think is really important. We're diving into those common negative thoughts or phrases that English learners often say, maybe even without realizing it.
Exactly. And it's not just about pointing them out. We really want to explore why they can be unhelpful and, crucially, offer some more empowering ways to think about things. We're drawing a lot from Tiffany at Speak English with Tiffany. She outlined about 15 of these.
Right. She has some great insights, and we've sort of taken her list as a starting point, mixed in our own understanding of language learning. And we want to unpack these, figure out why saying I can't feels so different from saying I'm working on it.
That's the core of it. Our goal here on the deep dive is always to sift through different perspectives and, pull out practical takeaways for you. And today it's all about building that confidence, making your learning journey feel a bit more positive, maybe more effective.
Because let's be honest, learning English can feel challenging sometimes. There are tricky sounds, grammar rules that seem, weird at first.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you want to express yourself, get your ideas across clearly. It's totally understandable that sometimes you hit a wall and that negative self-talk creeps in.
But the problem is that negativity can actually become another hurdle, right? It can slow you down.
Precisely. So our mission today is to give you some concrete strategies, some alternative phrases you can actually use to reframe those moments, make the whole experience feel less like a struggle and more like, Progress.
Okay, let's get into the first one. This is a big one. It's too difficult. We've all felt that, I'm sure, about something.
Oh yeah, it seems like you're just stating a fact, like this grammar point, too difficult. But there's more going on psychologically, isn't there?
What do you mean? Like how it affects your brain?
Well, yeah, when you label something as too difficult, it's almost like you're giving your brain permission to switch off. It's like saying, okay, no point putting effort here, this is impossible.
Okay, it's like a mental stop sign.
Exactly. It taps into what psychologists call a fixed mindset, this idea that your abilities are just set in stone. If you believe something is fundamentally beyond you, why would you even try hard?
That makes so much sense. You're basically closing the door on learning before you've even given it a proper shot. So what's the antidote? What's the better way to frame that feeling?
Tiffany suggests something really simple but powerful. I need more time to understand this.
Okay, I need more time to understand this. How does that change things?
Well, think about it. It completely shifts the framing. It acknowledges the challenge, yes, but it implies that understanding is possible. It just requires, well, more time, more effort.
It turns it from a dead end into a process. It's not about you being incapable. It's about the task needing a certain amount of engagement.
Precisely. It connects to the idea of a growth mindset, the belief that you can develop your abilities through dedication. I need more time, keeps the door open. It tells your brain, okay, this requires focus, maybe a different approach, but we can get there.
It encourages persistence, doesn't it? Instead of giving up, you're implicitly saying, I'll keep working on this.
Exactly right. It moves away from judging yourself and towards focusing on the learning process itself. Your brain sees it as a puzzle to solve, not an insurmountable wall.
That's a really strong starting point. Okay, let's move to number 2, another classic. I can't speak fluently.
Oh, this one carries a lot of weight for learners. You hear yourself making mistakes, you hesitate, you search for words, and that little voice says, see? You just can't do it.
Yeah, it reinforces that feeling of being stuck, of not being good enough yet.
And just like it's too difficult, saying I can't solidifies that belief. It makes fluency seem like this distant, maybe unreachable star, which, let's face it, is incredibly demotivating.
If you believe you can't do something, you're probably less likely to put yourself in situations where you have to try, right? Like speaking practice.
Absolutely. It becomes a self-limiting cycle. So what's the positive alternative Tiffany suggests here?
She suggests saying, I'm working on improving my fluency.
Simple again. But notice the shift.
Huge shift. It goes from a statement of permanent inability, I can't, to a statement of active progress. I'm working on it.
Exactly. It acknowledges that you're not where you want to be yet, but crucially, it emphasizes the process, the effort you're putting in. It implies growth and development over time.
I really like that. It feels more honest, too, in a way. Most learners are actively working on it. It's just about recognizing that effort.
And think about the impression it makes on others, like native speakers you might talk to.
That's a really good point. Saying I can't speak fluently might sound a bit negative, maybe even like you're looking for pity. I don't know.
Possibly, or at least like you've given up. But saying, I'm working on improving my fluency, that signals something completely different.
Yeah, it sounds proactive. It shows dedication, commitment. It tells the other person, hey, I'm on this journey, I'm trying. That feels much more positive.
And it's not just about impressing others. Think about what it does for your own motivation. When you tell yourself, I'm working on this, you feel more in control.
Definitely. It gives you a sense of agency. You're not just passively wishing for fluency, you're actively building it. That's got to be more motivating.
It encourages you to keep going, to keep practicing, because you framed it as an ongoing project, not a failed state.
This reframing idea is really powerful. Okay, number 3 is another one that hits deep for a lot of people. I'll never sound like a native speaker.
This one touches on accent, pronunciation, identity. It's sensitive territory.
And why is this one particularly unhelpful, apart from the obvious negativity of never?
Well, for a start, it's often just wrong. Many learners achieve incredibly high levels of pronunciation, sometimes indistinguishable from native speakers, frankly.
True. But also, what even is a native speaker sound?
Exactly, that's the second point. Safani makes this great observation about the U.S. alone. Think Boston versus Texas versus California. They all sound completely different.
But they're all native English speakers, so this idea of one single native sound is flawed from the start.
Totally flawed. Linguistically, everyone has an accent. It reflects where you're from, your background. There's no single correct accent to aim for.
So the goal shouldn't necessarily be to sound exactly like someone from London or New York, maybe.
Perhaps not. The real goal, arguably, should be clear, effective communication. Can people understand you easily? Are you getting your message across? That's often more important than achieving some specific, idealized accent.
Okay, so if I'll never sound like a native speaker is out, what are the better alternatives?
Tafani offers a few good ones. You could say, I'm working on my pronunciation. Simple, focused, true.
That acknowledges it's a skill you can improve without the pressure of becoming someone else.
Or, if that's still your goal, I'm working on sounding more like a native English speaker. Still positive, still focused on the work.
Or even broader.
Right, perhaps the most useful one. I am working on my communication skills.
I like that one, because it covers everything. Pronunciation, yes, but also vocabulary, grammar, confidence, clarity. The whole package.
Exactly. It shifts the focus from just the sound to the overall effectiveness of your speaking.
Tafani mentioned something about her students in the Speak English, like a native academy.
Yeah.
What was the key takeaway there?
Yeah, she found that when students stopped obsessing quite so much about erasing their own accent and focused instead on just communicating clearly and confidently, guess what happened?
Their pronunciation actually improved anyway.
Often, yes.
Yeah.
As a kind of natural side effect. When the pressure was off to achieve this perfect, maybe impossible, mimicry, they relaxed, spoke more, and naturally got better at being understood. Their overall communication improved, pronunciation included.
That's fascinating. Reducing the anxiety actually helps the skill develop.
It seems so. So embracing your accent while consciously working on clarity and effective communication, that seems like a much healthier and probably more successful approach.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's tackle the next fear. I'll never understand native speakers, especially when they talk fast or use idioms.
Right, the listening comprehension challenge. And again, that word never is the problem.
How does Tafani challenge this one?
It's quite clever, actually. She basically says, well, if you're listening to this podcast, or to me right now, you are understanding native speakers.
Huh. Good point. We might be speaking relatively clearly for this deep dive, but fundamentally, you, the listener, are processing native speech right now.
Exactly. So the premise of never understanding is demonstrably false from the get-go. You might not understand everything perfectly, especially in every situation, but the basic ability is there.
So it's more a question of degree and improving that degree of understanding.
Precisely. And understanding improves dramatically with practice and exposure. Think about your own journey. Didn't English sound like a blur at first? Maybe. But the more you listen, the more your brain starts to pick out patterns, words, rhythms.
Definitely. Your brain gets trained almost subconsciously. You start anticipating words, understanding common phrases.
It's amazing how adaptable our brains are. Tafani shared a story about a student who listened to a fast conversation recording. First time, barely understood anything. Listened again, a bit more. Third time, significantly more.
That shows the power of repetition, doesn't it? Just letting your brain grapple with the same input multiple times.
It really does. And there's another factor too, your environment and state of mind.
How so?
When you're relaxed, when you're not panicking about understanding every single word, your brain is actually much better at processing the information. Anxiety interferes with comprehension.
Ah, okay. So being stressed about not understanding can actually make it harder to understand.
It's a vicious cycle sometimes. So instead of I'll never understand, the focus should be on consistent listening practice, exposing yourself to different voices and speeds, and trying to stay relaxed and focused while you do it.
Makes sense. Let's move to writing. Phrase number 5. I'll never be able to write well. This hits hard if you need English for work or study.
Yeah, academic essays, professional emails,
Mm-hmm.
the pressure can be high. But again, that never is the killer.
Why? Isn't writing ability somewhat innate?
Not really, no. Writing is fundamentally a skill, like playing a musical instrument or learning a sport. And skills can be developed.
Through practice.
Through practice, absolutely. But also through learning the techniques, getting feedback, understanding structure. It's a craft you can learn and refine. Believing you never can just stops you from even trying to learn that craft.
So adopting that growth mindset, again, believing you can improve with effort, is key for writing too.
Absolutely essential. You have to believe improvement is possible to put in the work required.
Tafani mentioned she was going to share a story about an English teacher later on. Does that tie in here?
It does. She teases a story about her favorite high school teacher, Miss Candelaria, who apparently really pushed her and taught her how to structure her thoughts and write effectively.
So even native speakers often need guidance and practice to become good writers.
Exactly. which proves the point. It's a learned skill, not just something you're born with or without. It's achievable if you approach it the right way.
Okay, good. Now, what about vocabulary? This is a big one. I don't have a good memory for vocabulary.
So common. Especially perhaps as people get older, they worry their memory isn't what it used to be.
Or they just feel overwhelmed by the sheer number of words in English.
Right. But Tiffany tackles this head on. She shares success stories from older learners in her programs who have successfully built large vocabularies.
That's really encouraging. It immediately challenges that idea that memory decline or age is an absolute barrier.
It really does. It suggests that maybe it's not about having a bad memory inherently, but perhaps about not having found the right methods for memorization that work for you.
So it's about the strategy, not the brain itself necessarily.
Largely, yes. She suggests things like spaced repetition, reviewing words at increasing intervals, using mnemonics, creating little memory tricks or associations.
Like linking a new word to a funny image or a word in your own language.
Exactly. And crucially, learning words in context. Seeing how a word's actually used in a sentence in a real situation makes it so much more memorable than just seeing it on a list.
That makes intuitive sense. You understand its meaning and usage better.
And different things work for different people. That's the idea of learning style. Some people are very visual, others auditory, others learn by doing. You need to experiment and figure out what makes words stick for you.
Tiffany mentioned her daily EnglishVocabulary.com newsletter too. Is that about consistency?
I think so. Getting regular, manageable doses of new vocabulary, seeing words used repeatedly in different contexts, that slow, steady exposure can be incredibly effective over time. It's less about cramming and more about consistent engagement.
Right, building it up gradually. Okay, next one takes us back to accent. I'll never overcome my accent. We sort of covered this, but any nuances here?
The main reinforcement here is that core idea. Everyone has an accent, native speakers included. Thinking you need to overcome yours implies it's something wrong or bad that needs fixing.
Whereas it's actually just part of how you speak.
Exactly. Tiffany really hammers this point home. The goal isn't accent elimination, it's clear pronunciation and effective communication.
Can you have clear pronunciation and still have a noticeable accent?
Absolutely. Think about standard American English versus standard British English. Distinct accents, right? But someone speaking either clearly is perfectly understandable, their pronunciation within their accent system is correct, or standard.
So it's about making the individual sounds of English clearly enough that people understand you easily, regardless of the overall flavor of your speech.
Precisely. Focus on clarity, on intelligibility. Your accent is part of your linguistic identity. Don't see it as a barrier to overcome, but work on making sure your pronunciation within that accent is clear.
Got it. Now, something practical. Enjoying media. I can't understand movies or TV shows in English. This is frustrating. You want to relax and watch something, but it feels like work.
Totally understand that frustration. Tiffany offers a really concrete strategy here.
Which is?
Start with English subtitles on.
Okay. Why English, not my native language?
Because it connects the sounds you're hearing with the written words in English. It helps you map the spoken language onto the text. It's a direct link. Using native language subtitles is more like translation practice.
Okay. So English subtitles provide a scaffold, a support system.
Exactly. You can follow the plot, see the words as they're spoken, and the interesting thing is what happens over time.
What's that?
As you watch more, maybe even rewatch things, your brain starts to get used to the sounds, the rhythm, the common phrases. You rely less and less on reading every single word of the subtitles.
You start picking up more just by listening.
Precisely. Your auditory processing gets better trained. Your brain learns to decode the sounds more efficiently. You might find you only glance at the subtitles occasionally, or for a really fast bit.
So the strategy is start with them, but aim to gradually rely on them less as your listening improves naturally through that supported exposure.
That's the idea. It's a stepping stone. Eventually, you might be able to turn them off completely for some things. It's a process, not an overnight switch.
Cool. Okay, next is closely related. I can't improve my listening skills. Seems like we just talked about how you can improve them with movies.
Exactly. This one is pure negative self-talk, often born from the frustration we just discussed. It's that fixed mindset again. My listening is bad, and it will always be bad.
But Tiffany's point is that listening is a skill, and like any skill,
it can be improved with practice and the right approach. Believing you can improve is the biggest obstacle to actually improving. Your mindset is so fundamental here.
So if you ditch the I can't believe, what practical things can you do to actively improve listening?
Well, beyond the movie TV strategy, Tefani talks about active listening.
What does that mean, exactly? Not just hearing, but...
Right, it means really focusing. Trying to understand the main idea, maybe predicting what comes next, summarizing mentally what you just heard. It's engaging your brain fully, not just letting the sound wash over you.
Okay, so more conscious effort.
Yes. Also, engaging in conversations is huge. Real-time practice. And using the wealth of online resources, podcasts, designed for learners, listening exercises, audiobooks.
So it's about being proactive, choosing to practice, and believing that practice will actually make a difference.
That's it. Mindset plus consistent active practice.
Okay, number 10. This is a sensitive one for many adults. I can't learn English because of my age.
Ah, yes, the age myth. Tefani hits this one hard.
And how does she debunk it?
With evidence. She shares examples of people learning successfully across the entire age spectrum, literally from kids as young as 4 to adults in their 80s, even 85.
Wow, 85. That really puts the I'm too old at 30, 40, 50 idea into perspective.
Doesn't it? It powerfully demonstrates that our brains can keep learning throughout life. Neuroplasticity is real. Age is not the hard barrier people often think it is.
Do older learners maybe need different strategies? Does it get harder?
Strategies might need adapting, yes. Maybe memory techniques become more important, or finding learning methods that fit a busy adult life. And yes, the pace might sometimes be different than for a child whose brain is wired for language acquisition. But can you learn? Absolutely.
So the message isn't it's exactly the same, but rather it's absolutely possible.
Precisely. The key, Tefani emphasizes, is believing you can learn regardless of your age and trusting the process, sticking with it, even if progress feels slow sometimes. Don't let age become an excuse to give up.
That's incredibly empowering for anyone who's ever had that doubt.
Okay, number 11. I'll never be able to think in English. This feels like a really advanced goal.
It often is seen that way, yeah. Like the final frontier of fluency. But Tefani argues it's not some mystical ability only geniuses acquire. So how does it happen? How do you get to the point where the words just come out in English without translating in your head first?
It develops gradually, through consistent practice and especially through immersion, surrounding yourself with English as much as possible.
That word again, immersion.
It's key for this. Tefani uses a great example with the Korean word for water, mol. When you first learn water, you might think mol water.
Right, the translation step.
But with enough exposure, hearing water, seeing water, asking for water, eventually your brain makes a direct link between the concept of water and the English word water. You bypass mol altogether.
Ah, you build a new direct pathway in your brain.
Exactly. And the more pathways you build like that for more words and concepts, the more you start thinking in English. It happens bit by bit as you use the language more and translate less.
So the advice is more exposure, more practice. Try to consciously use English in your thoughts sometimes, and trust that the thinking and English ability will grow over time.
That's the essence of it. It's a natural outcome of consistent engagement with the language.
Okay, number 12 is back to listening, specifically fast speech. I'll never be able to understand fast speech.
This is a subset of the general I can't understand natives fear, but focused on speed. People talking quickly in cafes and movies, it can sound like a jumble.
How does Tefani address this specific fear?
Again, she kind of turns it back on the listener. She points out that she herself probably varies her pace naturally as she speaks, sometimes faster, sometimes slower. Yet the listener is likely following along.
So you can already understand speech that isn't artificially slowed down, even if it feels fast sometimes.
Exactly. It proves the capability is there. What often feels too fast is just normal conversational speed. And remember the relaxation point.
Yeah, being anxious makes it harder to process.
Right. When you're comfortable, your brain handles speed better. So part of it is managing that anxiety. The other part is gradual acclimatization.
Like listening to slightly faster things over time.
Yes. Tefani recommends deliberately seeking out authentic materials, things not made for learners. Real conversations, maybe YouTube videos on topics you like, where native speakers are just talking naturally, news reports. Start with things that are maybe a bit challenging, and your ear will gradually adjust.
Train your brain to handle the normal pace. Okay, number 13. I can't learn English without a teacher.
This is interesting because teachers are obviously incredibly valuable. Good teachers can guide you, explain things, give feedback.
But Tiffany's point is that they're not strictly essential for learning to happen.
Exactly. Especially now with the internet, there's an unbelievable wealth of resources out there. Apps, websites, videos, podcasts, online communities. You can learn effectively on your own if you're motivated and disciplined.
She shared a story about this, didn't she? Someone in South Korea.
Yeah, an inspiring example of a student who reached a really high level of fluency, mainly using online resources and sheer self-discipline. No formal teacher in the traditional sense.
So it is possible, but it takes commitment.
Tremendous commitment. And that's the key point, really. Even with a great teacher, the learning doesn't happen passively. You, the learner, still have to do the work. You have to practice, review, engage, apply what you're taught.
The teacher facilitates, but the learner drives.
Perfectly put.
Mm-hmm.
So while a teacher is a fantastic asset, don't let the lack of one become a reason to believe you can't learn. You absolutely can, using the resources available and your own dedication.
Very empowering. Okay, almost there. Number 14. I can't learn English because I'm too busy. This one feels very real for many adults.
Oh, absolutely. Work, family, other commitments. Life gets packed. Tiffany acknowledges this reality. She's not saying it's easy to find time.
But she challenges the idea that there's absolutely no time.
Right. She uses analogies. We usually manage to find time for things we really want to do or things we see as truly essential, don't we?
True. If a new season of your favorite show drops, you suddenly find an hour.
Exactly. Or if you decide fitness is a priority, you carve out time for the gym. It's often about priorities and finding creative ways to integrate something into your existing schedule.
So how can you integrate English learning into a busy life?
Think small pockets of time. Listening to an English podcast while commuting or doing chores. Using a vocabulary app for 5 minutes during a coffee break. Reviewing flashcards while waiting for an appointment.
Little and often, rather than needing huge blocks of study time.
That can be a very effective strategy for busy people. And making it enjoyable helps too. If you find ways to learn through things you genuinely like, music, movies, articles about your hobbies, it feels less like a chore and more like leisure. Then it's easier to prioritize.
So challenge the no time belief, look for small windows, and make it enjoyable. Good advice. Okay, the final one, number 15. I'll never be fluent in English.
The ultimate negative statement, really. It encapsulates all the other doubts.
Yeah, why is this one so detrimental?
Because belief is incredibly powerful. If you genuinely believe you will never achieve something, how likely are you to put in the sustained effort required to actually achieve it?
Probably not very likely. It creates that self-fulfilling prophecy again.
Exactly. Tiffany stresses how crucial it is to counter this belief. You have to believe fluency is possible for you, even if it feels distant right now.
Even if progress feels slow.
Especially then. Language learning isn't always a smooth upward curve. There are plateaus, moments of frustration. But you have to trust the process, keep putting in the work, and hold on to the belief that fluency is attainable with time and consistent effort.
So the core message is, ditch the never, believe in your potential, keep working, fluency is achievable.
That's it. It requires patience, persistence, the right strategies, and crucially, that underlying positive belief in yourself.
You know, thinking about all this, that story Tiffany mentioned about her teacher, Miss Candelaria, seems relevant again.
How so? Remind me of the gist.
Well, Tiffany said English wasn't her favorite subject initially, even though she was a good student overall. Her first paper came back with lots of red marks.
Ah, the dreaded red pen.
Right. But Miss Candelaria didn't just mark it wrong. She taught Tiffany how to organize her thoughts, how to structure an argument, how to support her ideas, basically how to write well.
So she provided the tools and the guidance. She showed her the process of becoming a better writer.
Exactly. It wasn't about innate talent. It was about learning the skills. And Tiffany said it was hard work that Miss Candelaria pushed her.
Which connects back to what we've been saying. Achieving something worthwhile, like fluency or strong writing skills, requires effort. It requires learning the techniques and putting in the practice. It doesn't just happen.
And Miss Candelaria helped Tiffany believe she could do it, presumably by teaching her how. It links back to overcoming those I can't or I'll never thoughts by focusing on the process and the skills needed.
That's a great connection. It underscores that challenge and hard work are part of the journey to excellence, guided by belief and effective strategies.
Wow, okay, we've covered a lot of ground there. 15 negative phrases and 15 more positive, empowering ways to reframe them.
It really highlights how much our internal narrative, our self-talk, matters in language learning. It's not just about grammar rules and vocabulary lists. Your mindset is a huge piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. Shifting from I can't to I'm working on it, or from it's too difficult to I need more time. These aren't just word games. They genuinely change how you approach the challenge.
They foster resilience. They encourage persistence. They make the whole process feel less defeating and more like a journey you're actively navigating.
So the big takeaway for you, our listener, is to really start noticing your own thoughts about learning English. When you hit a difficult point, what's the first thing you tell yourself?
And if it's one of these negative phrases we've discussed, consciously try swapping it out. Use one of the alternatives. See if it changes how you feel or what you do next.
It might feel a bit strange at first, maybe even forced, but practicing this positive reframing can genuinely reshape your mindset over time.
Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. There will be bumps in the road. But believing in your ability to learn, celebrating small victories, and focusing on the process, that's what will keep you moving forward.
You absolutely can achieve your English goals. It takes time, effort, and that crucial ingredient, believing in yourself.
Well said. Keep practicing, keep learning, and be kind to yourself along the way.
Thank you so much for tuning in and sticking with us through this detailed deep dive. We sincerely hope it's giving you some useful tools and a boost of encouragement.
Yeah, hope it was helpful.
And today we're diving into something really practical, a YouTube lesson. It's from the Smashin' English free and fun English lessons channel.
Oh yeah, I know that channel. Laura does great work there.
She does. This one's a live lesson she did called, If You Know These 100 English Words, Your English is Great.
Ah, okay. So vocabulary boost session. 100 words, that's quite a list.
It is. And they're words she describes as commonly used, but maybe a bit more advanced. Things that really help you sound more natural.
Right. Stuff that bridges the gap between textbook English and how people actually talk. So our mission here is what? To unpack these words.
Exactly. We'll go through them, look at Laura's explanations and examples, and sort of explore how they work. It's like a shortcut, you know, helping you understand native speakers better and maybe use some of these yourself.
Sounds good. And for you listening, this is a great chance to see how many you already know. Like a mini self-assessment.
Totally. Don't worry, if you only know a few, that's perfectly fine. It just means there's some cool new stuff here for you to learn.
Every new word helps, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, should we jump in? Let's start with the first few words Laura covered. Number one was thrive.
Thrive. Yeah, that's a really positive verb. It's not just surviving, it's doing really well. Growing, succeeding.
Right. Laura's example was about guitar playing, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. After practicing every day, she began to thrive in her guitar playing. It shows that sense of flourishing, you know,
Yes.
getting better through effort.
I like that. It implies real progress, not just getting by. And for you, listening, that's the goal with English, isn't it? To really thrive, not just manage.
Absolutely. Using resources like this, practicing. That's how you get there.
Okay, next one. Sustainable.
Yeah.
Number two.
Sustainable. This word is everywhere now, isn't it?
It really is. Laura defined it as good for the environment and also something you can do for a long time.
Yeah, those two key aspects. Her example was recycling. Recycling is a sustainable habit because it helps the earth and can be done for a long time. Yeah, makes sense.
Really taps into that growing environmental awareness. But it's broader too, right?
Yeah, I was thinking that you could have a sustainable learning pace, for instance. Something you can keep up without burning out.
Exactly. It's about longevity, being able to maintain something. Good word.
Okay, number 3. Reassure.
Reassure. This is a comforting one. To tell someone it's okay, make them feel better, less worried.
Laura's example was about a mom reassuring her child about making mistakes, that it's normal.
Yeah, mom reassured me that my mistakes were normal and a part of learning. It's got that emotional support element.
Definitely. You know, when you're learning English, getting that reassurance can be really important, can't it? That it's okay not to be perfect.
Absolutely. It builds confidence.
All right, next we have a phrasal verb, run through.
Run through. Very useful, very common. Laura said it means to quickly go over something.
Yeah, her example was, before the test, let's run through the important topics one more time. It feels efficient.
It is. It's faster than saying, let's quickly review. Native speakers use these phrasal verbs all the time to be concise.
It makes the language flow more naturally, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So for you listening, getting comfortable with these is key.
Definitely. Okay, number 5.
Number 5 is reconcile.
Reconcile. This one's about making up after a disagreement, right? Becoming friends again.
Yeah, Laura talked about having an argument and then deciding to reconcile. It's about restoring harmony.
It has that positive feeling of resolution. But it can also be used more abstractly,
How do you mean?
like reconciling different sets of data or reconciling your bank statement, making sure things match up or agree.
Okay. So bringing different things into agreement, whether it's people or information. Gotcha.
Precisely. And the last one in this first batch, number 6, is pragmatic.
Pragmatic. I like this word. Laura described it as practical, sensible, realistic.
Yeah, her example was, instead of worrying about perfection, take a pragmatic approach to solving the problem.
That really applies to language learning, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Be pragmatic. Focus on communication, on getting your message across, rather than stressing about every single tiny error.
It's about being effective, not perfect, which, honestly, is probably a more sustainable approach, too.
Huh? See, you're using the words already. Very true. A pragmatic approach is often more sustainable.
Okay, that's a great first set. Really useful words. Ready for the next group?
Let's do it. What's number 7?
Number 7 is another phrasal verb, go along with.
Go along with. Okay, so this means agreeing with someone or doing what they suggest.
Yeah, Laura gave 2 examples that showed different sides to it. One was just going to a burger place with friends, even if you wanted pizza.
Right, kind of low stakes, just being agreeable, maybe keeping the peace.
But the other example was going along with a friend's lie, which is more serious.
Exactly. It shows that going along with isn't always neutral or positive. Sometimes it involves compromise, maybe even peer pressure.
Yeah, there's a social dynamic there, isn't there?
Definitely. Okay, what's next? Number 8.
Number 8 is resonate.
Resonate. This is about impact, isn't it? When something really strikes a chord with you, stays with you.
Yeah, Laura connected it to sound waves vibrating, but also how ideas or feelings can vibrate within you. Her example was song lyrics resonating.
That's a perfect example. Music often resonates deeply.
Books,
but it could be other things too, right?
Oh, for sure. A story, a film, something someone says. If it connects with your own experiences or feelings, it resonates.
It's that feeling of deep connection or significance, a powerful word.
Okay, number 9, ambiguous.
Ambiguous. This means unclear or having more than one possible meaning.
Laura's example was ambiguous instructions, making it hard to know what to do.
Yeah, the instructions were ambiguous and I couldn't figure out what to do.
Yeah.
We've all been there, right? It's frustrating.
Totally. It highlights why clarity is so important in communication. Ambiguity leads to confusion.
Yeah, and mistakes, wasted time. Yeah, being clear is key.
All right, number 10 is biased.
Biased. Showing favoritism, being unfair because of personal opinions or interests.
Laura mentioned a biased news article only showing one side.
Or the parent judging their own child's performance in a competition. They're likely to be biased.
It's about a lack of objectivity, isn't it?
Exactly. And recognizing bias, both in others and importantly in ourselves, is a really crucial, critical thinking skill.
Definitely. You need to be aware of it to make informed judgments.
Yeah. Question the source, look for different perspectives.
Okay, so that's resonate, ambiguous, and biased. Good stuff. Moving on to the next little group, starting with number 11, carry out.
Carry out, another phrasal verb. This one just means doing or completing a task. Simple as that.
Nora's example. Today, our main goal is carrying out the plan we discussed yesterday. It sounds a bit more formal than just do, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say so. It often implies a plan or instructions are being followed. You carry out an order, carry out an experiment, carry out a plan.
Right. It's about the execution. Okay, number 12, brush up on.
Brush up on. Love this one. It means to review or refresh your knowledge of something you learned before, but maybe haven't used in a while.
Like Laura's examples. Brushing up on maths formulas before a test, or brushing up on your Spanish before a holiday.
Exactly. It's acknowledging that skills can get rusty if you don't practice them.
And for you, learning English, it's so important, isn't it? Periodically, brushing up on grammar or vocabulary keeps it fresh.
Absolutely vital for long-term learning. You can't just learn something once and expect it to stick forever without review.
True. Okay, number 13 is contradict.
Contradict. This means saying or doing the opposite of what someone else said, or even what you yourself said earlier.
Laura mentioned how confusing it is when people contradict themselves, like changing their story.
Yeah, it creates inconsistency, makes it hard to know what to believe.
And it can damage trust, right? If someone's always contradicting themselves or others.
Definitely. Consistency is important for credibility. If your words don't match up or don't match your actions, people start to doubt you.
Makes sense. Okay, so carry out, brush up on, Contradict. Got it. Next pair. Intense and praise.
All right. Intense. Number 14.
This adjective means very strong, very serious, maybe even extreme.
Laura's example was an intense movie. The movie was so intense I couldn't look away from the screen. It grabs your full attention.
Yeah, it implies a high level of feeling or activity. Can intensity be a good thing too?
Oh, for sure. An intense workout, an intense discussion that leads to understanding, intense happiness.
Yeah.
It's about the degree, the strength of the experience.
Right. Not always negative. Okay, number 15. Praise.
Praise. This can be a verb or a noun. It's about saying positive things, expressing approval or admiration for someone or something they've done.
Laura mentioned the Fat Boy Slim song, Praise You.
Yeah. And also a teacher praising students for their hard work.
That's so important, isn't it? Giving praise.
Hugely important. It motivates people, boosts their confidence, makes them feel valued. Positive reinforcement works.
True. In learning, at work, in relationships, praise matters.
Definitely. Okay, next group. 16, 17, 18.
Yep. Monitor, diplomatic, and engaging. Let's start with monitor.
Monitor. Okay, this verb means to watch something carefully over a period, usually to check for changes or ensure things are okay.
Like Laura's example of parents monitoring their kids' online activity.
Exactly. Keeping an eye on things for safety or progress. You might monitor a patient's health, monitor a situation.
Monitor your screen time.
Ooh, yes. Maybe we should all do more of that. It's about observation and checking.
Okay. Next, diplomatic. Number 17.
Diplomatic. This adjective describes being tactful, skilled in dealing with people, especially in difficult situations, to avoid causing offense.
Laura described it as making sure everyone feels heard, finding compromise. Like a diplomat in international relations, but on a smaller scale.
Precisely. Her example was finding a restaurant that everyone in a group can agree on that requires being diplomatic.
Yes. The ultimate diplomatic challenge sometimes. It's a really valuable skill, isn't it? Being able to handle disagreements smoothly.
Incredibly valuable. It preserves relationships and helps find solutions peacefully.
Okay, and number 18 is engaging.
Engaging. An adjective meaning interesting, captivating, holding your attention.
Laura used a novel as an example, and then cheekily said her live stream was engaging too.
Well, hopefully it was. And hopefully this deep dive is engaging for you listening too. It's what you want content to be, right?
Absolutely. If something isn't engaging, you just tune out. What makes something engaging, do you think?
Good question. Clarity, maybe. Relevance, a bit of personality or humor, not being monotonous.
Yeah, a mix of things. It needs to capture and hold your interest.
So, monitor, diplomatic, engaging. Got it. What's next on the list?
We're to number 19, starting a new set. This one's informal, pipe down.
Pipe down. Yeah, Laura flagged this as informal, potentially a bit rude. It just means be quiet.
Right. She said you might use it with kids or students, maybe.
Yeah, in situations where you have some authority or it's very informal, you wouldn't tell your boss to pipe down.
Definitely not. It shows the importance of register, doesn't it? Knowing when informal language is okay and when it's not.
Crucial for sounding appropriate in different situations. Okay, number 20. Browse.
Browse. This means looking at things casually without a specific goal.
Like browsing in a shop, Laura's example. Or browsing online. Just browsing.
We do a lot of browsing, don't we? It's like exploring without pressure.
Yeah, seeing what's out there, maybe finding something interesting by chance.
Okay, 21. Step aside.
Step aside.
Yeah.
Laura mentioned two meanings here. The literal one is moving out of the way for someone to pass.
Right. Like holding a door and telling someone to go ahead after you step aside.
And the figurative meaning.
To leave a job or position so someone else can take over. To relinquish power or responsibility.
Okay. So in both cases, it's about making way for someone else, either physically or positionally.
Exactly. Context tells you which one is meant. Number 22, slate.
Slate. This is a strong one. It means to criticize something very harshly, often publicly.
Laura's example was film critics slating a movie they hated.
Yeah. It's more intense than just criticize. Slating implies a really negative, almost dismissive judgment.
Like they totally crashed it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Strong word. Okay, 23.
23 is ring, R-I-N-G.
Ring. Not like a telephone.
Yeah.
This is the verb for twisting something wet to get the water out.
Yeah, Laura demonstrated it. Like wringing out a wet cloth or a towel.
A very specific, practical action. Maybe not a word everyone knows, but useful if you're doing laundry.
Or washing the car. Okay, so pipe down, browse, step aside, slate, ring. Interesting mix.
Definitely. Ready for the next batch. 24.
Yep. 24 is facilitate.
Facilitate. This means to make something easier, to help a process happen more smoothly.
Laura contrasted teaching, which is more direct instruction, with facilitating, which is more about guiding and enabling.
Right, and she gave the example of new software, facilitating better communication. It removes barriers, helps things flow.
It seems like a key skill in teamwork, doesn't it? Facilitating discussion or progress.
Hugely. A good facilitator helps a group work together effectively towards their goal. It's about enabling others.
Okay. 25. Inspect.
Inspect. To look at something very closely and carefully, usually to check its condition or quality.
Laura's example was inspecting a used phone before buying it. Makes sense.
Definitely. You inspect a house before buying, inspect a car, inspect goods for quality control. It implies thorough examination.
Attention to detail. Okay, 26. Specify.
Specify. To state something clearly and precisely, leaving no doubt.
Like Laura's example of asking for a specific deadline, not just sometime next week.
Exactly. It's the opposite of being ambiguous. Being specific ensures everyone understands exactly what is meant or required.
Crucial for avoiding misunderstandings, especially with instructions or agreements.
Absolutely. Precision matters. Okay, facilitate, inspect, specify, all about making things work better.
Right. Next up, number 27, swerve.
Swerve. To change direction suddenly.
Laura gave the literal example of a car swerving to avoid hitting an animal.
A sharp, sudden turn. But it can be figurative too, right?
Yeah, she mentioned someone suddenly swerving in their opinion on a topic, like hunting. A sudden shift in viewpoint.
Gotcha. So an abrupt change of course, literally or figuratively.
Okay, 28. Cooperate.
Cooperate, working together with others. Teamwork.
Laura said it's important for job interviews, showing you can cooperate.
Makes sense. Most jobs require collaboration. Employers want people who can work well with others towards a common goal.
Being a team player. Okay, 29. Address.
Address. But not like your home address. This is the verb meaning to deal with or tackle a problem or issue.
Right. Laura's example. The need to address concerns raised by the team. It's proactive.
Exactly. It's more than just talking about the problem. It implies taking steps to deal with it, to resolve it.
So tackling it head on. Okay. And number 30. Clarify.
Clarify. To make something clear, easier to understand.
Laura used the example of asking questions in the live stream to clarify instructions, basically removing ambiguity.
Precisely. Seeking clarification is a really important learning strategy. If you don't understand, ask. Make it clear.
Don't just nod along if you're confused. Ask for clarification. Good advice.
Always. Okay, that was swerve, cooperate, address, clarify. Moving right along.
Yep, into the 30s. Number 31. Double check.
Double check. A classic. To check something again to be absolutely sure it's correct.
Laura's example. Double checking your essay for spelling mistakes before submitting it.
Essential. That second look often catches things you missed the first time. It's about being thorough.
Prevents silly errors. Okay, 32. Depict.
To depict. To show or represent something, usually in art or words.
Like Laura's example of an artist depicting a peaceful scene.
A painting depicts, a novel depicts, a film depicts. It's about portrayal, representation.
Got it. 33. Spontaneous.
Spontaneous. Acting on a sudden impulse without planning.
Laura had some big examples, like spontaneously deciding to go to India or cut your hair.
Yeah. It's that unplanned spur-of-the-moment action. Can be exciting, right?
Can be. Also maybe a bit risky sometimes. Depends on the spontaneous act.
True. There's a balance between spontaneity and planning.
Okay. 34. Disorientated.
Disorientated. Feeling lost, confused, unsure of where you are or what's going on.
Laura's example was feeling disorientated after a roller coaster ride. That spinning feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Or it could be from jet lag or waking up somewhere unfamiliar. That sense of confusion about your bearings.
Right. And 35. Wipe down.
Wipe down. Another practical phrasal verb. Cleaning a surface with a cloth.
Laura said, after cooking, remember to wipe down the kitchen counters. Simple hygiene.
Yep. Different from pipe down, which means be quiet. Wipe down is about cleaning.
Good distinction. Okay. Double check, depict, spontaneous, disorientated, wipe down. Done. Next 5.
Let's hear them. 36.
Analytical.
Analytical. Adjective. Using logic and reason, thinking carefully, breaking things down.
Laura's example. A good detective needs to be analytical.
Perfect example. It involves examining details, finding patterns, drawing logical conclusions, critical thinking.
Okay. 37. Doable.
Doable. Simple adjective, meaning possible to do, achievable.
Laura's example. Can you paint the kitchen in 2 hours? Is that doable? Yeah, it's doable. Assessing feasibility.
Exactly. Is this task realistic? Can it be done in the time or with the resources available? A very practical word.
38. Memorize.
Memorize. To learn something perfectly so you can recall it from memory by heart.
Laura specifically said you don't need to memorize all 100 words in her lesson.
Right. She emphasized familiarity, understanding the meaning and usage, which is often more useful in language than rote memorization.
Yeah, understanding in context beats just reciting dominitions.
For sure. Okay, 39. Call off.
Call off.
Yeah.
Phrasal verb, meaning to cancel something that was planned.
Laura mentioned calling off a barbecue because of rain.
Or even calling off a wedding. So minor plans or major events can be called off.
Right. It means the plan is abandoned, usually due to some problem or change in circumstances.
Okay. And number 40. Come down with.
Come down with. Another phrasal verb. This one means starting to get sick, contracting an illness.
Laura said, oh, I hope I don't come down with a cold before the big game. We've all felt that.
Definitely. That feeling when you realize you're starting to get ill, coming down with something.
Okay, so analytical, doable, memorize, call off, come down with.
40 words down.
Wow, we're making good progress. What's next? 41.
41.
Sort out.
Sort out. Versatile one. Can mean organize something messy or solve a problem.
Laura's example was sorting out a messy room, putting things in order.
Yep. But you can also sort out a problem, sort out a disagreement, sort out your finances. It's about resolving or organizing.
Okay. 42.
Evoke.
Evoke. To bring a feeling, memory, or image strongly into the mind.
Laura mentioned an old photo evoking memories or a song evoking a certain feeling like anger. Yeah, it's about triggering that internal response. Smells, sounds, images can all evoke things quite powerfully.
It's amazing how that works, isn't it? Okay, 43. Accommodate.
Accommodate means providing space or meeting someone's needs.
Laura gave 2 examples. A hotel room accommodating a large group, providing space.
And accommodating vegans at a wedding, meeting dietary needs.
It implies flexibility and consideration, doesn't it? Making adjustments for others.
Yes, exactly. Being accommodating is generally seen as a very positive quality. It fosters inclusion.
Okay, sort out, evoke, accommodate. Next pair, efficient and noticeable.
All right. Efficient, 44.
Adjective, working well, quickly, without wasting time or energy. Productive.
Laura's dishwasher example, more efficient than washing by hand, although she mentioned a smell issue.
Yes. But the principle is about maximizing output with minimum waste. Like an efficient process or an efficient machine.
Or an efficient use of your study time.
Good one. Okay, 45. Noticeable.
Noticeable, easy to see or notice, obvious.
Laura talked about a pregnant woman's bump being noticeable, or worrying if a pimple is noticeable. Things that stand out.
Exactly. Something catches your eye because it's different or prominent or just easily perceived.
Makes sense. Okay, next group. Hesitate, motivate, and fragrant. 46 is hesitate.
Hesitate. To pause before doing something, often due to uncertainty or reluctance.
Laura said, don't hesitate to ask for help, encouraging people to overcome that pause.
Yeah. People hesitate for various reasons, fear, shyness, uncertainty. But sometimes you need to push past that hesitation.
Especially when learning. Okay, 47, motivate.
Motivate, to give someone a reason or encouragement to do something, to inspire action.
Laura's example was a coach's pep talk motivating the team.
Classic example. Motivation can come from external sources like encouragement or internal sources like your own goals. Finding what motivates you is key.
True. And 48. Fragrant.
Fragrant, adjective, having a pleasant, often strong, sweet smell.
Laura mentioned fragrant flowers in a garden, appeals to the sense of smell.
Yeah, like fragrant herbs, fragrant perfume, fragrant spices. It's specifically about a pleasant aroma.
Lovely word. Okay, hesitate, motivate, fragrant. We are speeding along. Now for a slightly bigger chunk, 49 to 61. Starting with intuitive.
Intuitive, 49. Understanding something instinctively without conscious reasoning or being taught.
Laura mentioned having an intuitive sense of others' feelings or being intuitive at work, anticipating needs.
Yeah, it's like having a gut feeling or an innate understanding. Some things just feel intuitive, like well-designed software.
Right, you just know how to use it.
Okay,
number 50, compromise.
Compromise. Reaching an agreement where both sides give something up a bit, finding a middle ground.
Laura talked about compromise in relationships, like deciding where to live.
Essential for resolving conflicts fairly. It requires negotiation and a willingness to meet halfway. Both sides yield something.
Okay. 51. Ascertain.
Ascertain.
Yeah.
A bit more formal. Means to find something out for certain, to make sure it's true.
Laura's example. Ascertain the due date from the teacher, removing all doubt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It implies actively seeking confirmation or verification to ascertain the facts.
Okay. 52.
Resilient.
Resilient. Able to recover quickly from difficulties. Tough. Able to bounce back.
Laura describes someone remaining resilient despite setbacks. It's about inner strength.
Hugely important quality. Life throws curveballs. Resilience is what helps you get back up and keep going.
Definitely. 53, drop off.
Drop off. Phrasal verb. Take something somewhere and leave the fomit there.
Laura's example was dropping kids off at the cinema. A quick handover.
Yep. Drop off kids at school, drop off a package, drop off a friend. Very common everyday action.
54, head.
Head. Used as a verb, informally, meaning to go in a particular direction.
Laura said native speakers might say head to the park instead of go to the park.
Exactly. Let's head out. Where are you heading?
It's just a more casual way to talk about direction of travel.
Good nuance to pick up. 55. Bring up.
Bring up, another phrasal verb with two main meanings. First, to raise a child.
Right. She was brought up by her grandparents.
And second, to mention something in conversation.
Please don't bring up politics at dinner. Context is everything.
Absolute crucial for phrasal verbs like this. Okay, 56, prominent.
Prominent. Standing out. Easily seen. Important.
Laura's example was a prominent building being a landmark. It's noticeable due to size or importance.
So something that catches the eye or holds significance. Okay. 57. Implement.
Implement, to put a plan or system into operation. To start using it.
Like Laura's school implementing a new scheme, moving from idea to action.
Exactly. It's the execution phase, implementing a strategy, implementing changes.
Okay, 58. Heartwarming.
Heartwarming, causing feelings of happiness, pleasure, and positivity. Emotionally touching.
Laura mentioned a heartwarming movie making you feel good.
Yeah. Stories of kindness, reunion, overcoming odds. They can be heartwarming. Gives you that warm, fuzzy feeling.
Nice. 59. Figure out.
Figure out, phrasal verb. To understand something or solve a problem after some thought.
Laura's example. Needing time to figure out how to fix a computer. Problem solving.
Yep. You figure out a puzzle, figure out what went wrong, figure out how to do something. It involves mental effort to find an answer.
Okay. 60. Eclectic.
Eclectic. Deriving ideas, style, or taste from a broad and diverse range of sources. Varied.
Laura used eclectic music taste as the example, liking lots of different genres.
Perfect. You could have eclectic taste in books, eclectic furniture. It just means diverse, drawing from many different areas.
A bit of everything. And 61, undermine.
Undermine. To lessen the effectiveness, power, or ability of something or someone, often gradually or secretly.
Laura gave examples like don't undermine my authority or constant criticism undermining confidence.
Yeah, it's about weakening something from below, often in a subtle way. It can be quite damaging.
Definitely. Wow, that was a big chunk. Intuitive, compromise, ascertain, resilient, drop off, head, bring up, prominent, implement, heartwarming, figure out, eclectic, undermine.
Backed with useful words. Ready for the next set. 62.
Yep. 62 to 65. Starting with stimulate.
Stimulate. To encourage interest or activity. To make something more active.
Laura had examples from shampoo stimulating hair growth to games stimulating a child's mind.
Right. It's about encouraging development or action. Stimulating conversations. Stimulating the economy.
Got it. 63. Look into.
Look into. Phrasal verb. To investigate or examine the facts about something.
Like Laura's detective looking into a disappearance. It implies investigation.
Exactly. You look into a complaint, look into options, look into a problem. It's about finding out more.
Okay. 64. Jazz up.
Jazz up. Informal phrasal verb. To make something more interesting, stylish, or exciting.
Laura's example was jazzing up a room with cushions, adding some flair.
Yeah. You can jazz up an outfit, jazz up a presentation, jazz up a meal, just making it a bit more lively or attractive.
Fun phrase. And 65. Speculate.
Speculate. To guess or form theories about something without firm evidence.
Laura mentioned newspapers speculating about celebrities or people speculating about who will win a game.
Right. It's conjecture, forming ideas based on incomplete information. Financial markets involve a lot of speculation, too.
True. Okay. Stimulate, look into, jazz up, speculate. Next 3. Savory, blunt, reinforce. 66 is savory.
Savory. Adjective for food, meaning salty or spicy, not sweet.
Laura contrasted it directly with sweet things, useful for describing food.
Very useful. Cheese is savory, crisps are savory, steak is savory. Covers a whole range of non-sweet flavors.
Okay. 67, blunt.
Blunt, adjective. Describing someone who speaks very directly, honestly, perhaps without trying to be polite, straightforward.
Laura said sometimes blunt feedback is appreciated. It gets straight to the point.
It can, yes. Though it can also sometimes come across as rude, depending on the culture and context. It lacks diplomacy.
A trade-off between directness and tact.
Okay.
And 68, reinforced.
Reinforce, to strengthen or support something, physically or conceptually.
Laura had the examples of positive feedback reinforcing good behavior and physically reinforcing a wobbly table.
Exactly, making something stronger. You reinforce an argument with evidence, reinforce learning through practice, reinforce a structure.
Okay, savory, blunt, reinforce. We're now entering the home stretch, but it's a rapid-fire round. 69 to 91. Ready.
Let's go. 69, diligent.
Working hard and carefully.
70,
Accomplish.
successfully complete or achieve.
71, gradual.
Happening slowly over time.
72, indicate.
Show or suggest something.
73, set aside.
Phrasal verb, reserve or save for later.
74, acclimatize.
Become used to new surroundings or conditions. Adjust.
75, mindless.
Acting or done without thought or intelligence. Careless.
76,
Vibe.
informal noun. The mood or atmosphere of a place or person.
77, vice versa.
Adverbial phrase. The other way around, what was said is also true in reverse order. Super useful. Agreed. 78, break even.
Phrasal verb, reach a point where costs and income are equal. No profit, no loss.
79, adapt.
Become adjusted to new conditions. Modify.
Yeah.
Similar to acclimatize, but maybe broader.
80, skeptical.
Doubting. Not easily convinced. Questioning. 81, overrule.
Reject a decision by using higher authority, like a judge overruling an objection. 82, fan.
A person with a strong interest in or admiration for something or someone. A supporter.
83, excruciating.
Intensely painful or embarrassing. Agonizing. 84, swamped.
Overwhelmed with a large amount of something, usually work. Inundated.
85, established.
Set up something, like an organization, on a firm basis. Achieve acceptance for something. 86, sabotage.
Ooh, dramatic one. Deliberately destroy, damage, or obstruct something.
87, influence.
Have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something.
88, self-aware.
Having conscious knowledge of one's own character, feelings, motives, and desires. Very important trait.
Right.
Very. 89, long haul, short haul.
Referring to a long or short period of time or distance, often used with in it for thee.
90, considerate.
Careful not to inconvenience or harm others. Thoughtful.
And 91, reach out.
Phrasal verb. Attempt to communicate with someone, often to offer or ask for help.
Phew, that was fast. 23 words covered just like that.
Yeah.
So much useful language there.
Absolutely packed. Okay, we were on the final straight now. The last 9 words, 92 to 100. Starting with banter.
Banter, noun.
Ooh.
Playful and friendly exchange of teasing remarks. Laura noted it's common in the UK.
Yeah, lighthearted teasing between friends. Okay, 93. Sniff around.
Sniff around.
Yes.
Informal phrasal verb, to try and find out information about something, often secretively, like investigating nosily.
Got it. 94.
Bitty. Bitty. Adjective, also common in the UK according to Laura, made up of small disconnected parts, fragmented, not flowing well.
Like a bitty explanation. Okay, 95. Grasp.
Grasp. Verb, to understand something fully, to get a mental hold of it.
To grasp a concept. Okay, 96. Incoherent.
Incoherent. Adjective, expressed in a confusing or unclear way, hard to understand, muddled.
Like someone speaking incoherently. 97. Shift.
Shift, verb or noun, to move or change position, or a change in position or direction.
A shift in opinion or shifting furniture. Okay. 98. Momentum.
Momentum, noun, the force gained by a moving object. Also, the impetus gained by a developing process. Hard to stop once it gets going.
Gaining momentum. Okay. 99. Freak out.
Freak out, informal phrasal verb, to suddenly become very angry, frightened, or excited, lose control emotionally.
A strong reaction. And finally, number 100. Conclude.
Conclude, verb, to bring something to an end, to arrive at a judgment or opinion by reasoning. To finish.
And that feels like a fitting word to conclude our list. Wow, 100 words and phrases. That was quite the journey.
It really was an incredible amount of vocabulary from that one lesson by Laura. Really valuable stuff.
Definitely. And, for everyone listening, absorbing all of that in one go is, well, it's a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Don't feel pressured to have mastered all 100 right now.
Yeah.
The idea is exposure and understanding.
Right. We really encourage you to maybe revisit this, look back over the words, perhaps check out Laura's original video on the Smashing English channel if you want to hear her explanations directly.
Yeah, hearing it again or seeing her explain can really help reinforce things. Because these words, they genuinely make a difference.
They really do. Using them helps you sound more natural, more nuanced, and understanding them helps you follow native speakers much more easily.
So here's a little challenge maybe. As you go about your week.
Ooh, I like a challenge.
Take just one, or maybe two, if you're feeling ambitious. Just one or two words or phrases from this deep dive that were new to you, or that you like the sound of.
Okay, and then?
And then actively try to use them. Maybe in an email, in a conversation, even just thinking a sentence to yourself using that word. That conscious effort makes a huge difference.
It really does. Small, consistent steps are how you make real progress in language learning. It's not about memorizing 100 words overnight.
Exactly. It's about gradually integrating them into your active vocabulary. So the final thought for you is,
which of these words will you bring into your English today?
A great question to ponder.
Definitely something to think about. Well, that brings us to the end of this deep dive. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Hope you found it useful.